What if I told you that a single rule change, passed quietly, could wipe out years of your life in Britain overnight? No court drama, no headlines, no warning letter. Just a decision on a screen that turns legal residents into overstayers in seconds. Sounds extreme? That's exactly why most people miss it. Here's the shocking part. Thousands of visas are canceled every year, not because of crimes, but because of small mistakes, late paperwork, job changes, income drops, or a rule people didn't even know existed. One misstep, and the system doesn't ask questions. It records, flags, and acts. By the time you realize something is wrong, the door is already closing. So ask yourself this: are you 100% sure your status is safe today? Because the next 10 minutes could reveal risks hiding in plain sight, rules that don't knock, don't warn, and don't forgive. Stay with me, especially for the final reasons. They're the ones that end stays forever. Number 1. Small visa mistakes that destroy your status. The most dangerous immigration risk in the UK isn't crime. It's small mistakes people don't take seriously. Thousands of people lose their legal status every year, not because they broke major laws, but because they missed a deadline, submitted the wrong document, or trusted outdated advice. The system doesn't look at intentions. It looks at records. And once that record shows a violation, the consequences can be immediate and permanent. Here's what most people don't realize. UK immigration systems are automated. That means no one calls you to clarify. No officer checks your background story. If your visa expires at midnight and your application was filed late, even by 1 day, the system can mark you as an overstayer. That single label can invalidate future applications, trigger investigations, or even lead to removal. People assume small errors can be fixed later. In reality, later often never comes. To protect yourself, you must treat every date, condition, and requirement as critical. Track your visa expiry like a financial deadline. Never assume your employer, school, or agent handled it. Always double-check submissions, save proof, and apply early, not on the last day. If your job changes, income drops, or personal situation shifts, don't ignore it. Report and review immediately. The UK system rewards precision, not effort. One overlooked detail can undo years of lawful living. Before we continue, ask yourself this honestly. When was the last time you personally checked your visa conditions? If it's been a while, that silence could be the most dangerous sign of all. If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 2. The hostile environment that turns daily life into a trap. Most people think immigration enforcement happens at borders or airports, but in the UK, it happens in your daily routine. Under what's known as the hostile environment, everyday institutions quietly act as immigration gatekeepers. Landlords, employers, banks, and even service providers are required to check, report, and refuse access if your status looks unclear. There's no drama, just doors closing one by one. Here's what makes this terrifying. You don't have to do anything wrong. A delayed update, a data mismatch, or an expired document in a system you don't control can trigger consequences. Your landlord can refuse to renew. Your employer can suspend you. Your bank account can be frozen. These checks are tied back to the UK Home Office, meaning a single no match can ripple across your entire life. By the time you realize there's a problem, you're already flagged. The most dangerous part is silence. No warning letters. No explanations. You simply start noticing things don't work anymore. A job offer disappears. A rental application fails. Access to services becomes temporarily unavailable. This is how people slide from legal status into enforcement territory without crossing any obvious line. Many only discover the truth when they're told to leave, or worse, when they try to reapply and learn they've been quietly recorded as non-compliant. So what can you do? Keep your records airtight. Always retain proof of status, renew early, and regularly check that your documents are updated across systems. If something feels off, don't wait. Act immediately. Because in the UK's hostile environment, normal life is the test, and failing it can end your stay forever. Now ask yourself this: if your landlord or employer checked your status today, are you certain nothing would go wrong? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 3. Minor crimes that trigger automatic deportation. Most people believe deportation only happens after serious crimes, but in the UK, that assumption can be dangerously wrong. Certain offenses that feel minor or one-time can still activate automatic deportation rules, leaving no room for explanations, apologies, or second chances. What shocks most people is that intent and personal history often don't matter once the legal trigger is activated. Here's how it works. Under current enforcement practices, if a non-citizen receives a custodial sentence, even for a non-violent offense, their case can fall into a category where removal becomes mandatory. This includes situations involving suspended sentences, repeat low-level offenses, or cases where the total time adds up across incidents. The decision is processed through the UK Home Office, and once the threshold is met, human discretion is severely limited. Families are separated. Careers end. Lives reset overnight. What makes this even more frightening is how easily people fall into this trap. A fight that gets out of hand. A driving offense escalated by paperwork errors. A misunderstanding that turns into a conviction. Many think they'll explain it later or appeal. But automatic deportation rules don't wait. In some cases, appeals are allowed only after removal, meaning you must leave the UK first and fight from outside, a battle most people lose. The only real protection is prevention and awareness. Take legal advice immediately if you're charged with anything, no matter how small it seems. Never plead guilty without understanding the immigration consequences, because criminal and immigration law operate together in the UK. One careless decision can outweigh years of lawful residence. Be honest with yourself for a moment. If a small mistake became a conviction tomorrow, would your right to stay survive it? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 4. Visa cancellations without a court hearing. Here's something most people never expect. Your visa can be canceled without you ever stepping inside a courtroom. No dramatic trial. No public debate. Just an administrative decision made behind a desk. For many migrants, this is the moment everything changes. One email, one letter, and suddenly, the life you built in Britain is hanging by a thread. In the UK, certain visa cancellations are handled directly by the UK Home Office through administrative powers. That means decisions can be made based on paperwork, internal reports, or compliance reviews. You might not even realize you're being assessed. A change in employment, a sponsor losing their license, a document considered insufficient. These issues can trigger a cancellation process without any courtroom hearing at all. And once the decision is issued, the clock starts ticking fast. What makes this especially alarming is how limited appeal rights can be in some categories. In certain cases, you may only be allowed to challenge the decision after you've already left the UK. Imagine packing your belongings, saying goodbye to friends, and trying to fight your case from thousands of miles away. For many people, that practical barrier means the fight effectively ends before it begins. So what can you do? Monitor your sponsor's status. Keep copies of every submission. Seek legal advice immediately if you receive any compliance notice. Never ignore official letters, even if they look routine. Because in today's system, silence doesn't mean safety. It can mean a decision has already been made. Ask yourself honestly, if your visa were reviewed tomorrow, would every detail stand up to scrutiny? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 5. Relationship rules that can collapse your status overnight. Many people believe that marriage or a long-term relationship automatically protects their right to stay in the UK, but that belief can be dangerously false. In recent years, relationship-based visas have come under intense scrutiny, and even genuine couples have seen their status questioned, delayed, or refused. Love alone is not enough. The system demands constant proof, and the burden never really ends. Here's what most couples don't expect. The UK Home Office has wide powers to assess whether a relationship is genuine and subsisting. That can include interviews, document reviews, and unannounced checks. Small inconsistencies, different addresses on paperwork, gaps in shared finances, or time spent apart can raise suspicion. Even cultural differences or nervous interview answers have been used to justify refusals. When doubts appear, decisions can be made quickly, sometimes without giving couples a real chance to explain. What makes this especially painful is how fast everything can unravel. A refused extension can instantly turn a legal resident into someone required to leave. If the relationship later breaks down through separation, divorce, or even temporary strain, your visa may become invalid almost immediately. Many people assume they'll have time to adjust or switch categories. In reality, the window can be extremely short, and missing it can permanently damage future applications. To protect yourself, document your life together continuously, not just at renewal time. Keep records of shared housing, finances, communication, and daily life. If problems arise in a relationship, seek immigration advice immediately. Don't wait for the situation to settle. Because under current rules, personal relationships are treated as legal evidence, and when that evidence is questioned, your stay in Britain can end without mercy. Ask yourself honestly, if your relationship were reviewed today, would the paperwork tell the full story of your life together? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 6. Student visa traps that catch graduates too late. Many international students believe the hardest part is getting into the UK, but the real danger often begins after graduation. Student visas come with strict conditions, tight timelines, and very little forgiveness. One misstep during this transition can quietly push a graduate out of legal status, even after years of study and thousands spent on education. Here's where the trap forms. Student visas are time-limited, and once your course ends, the countdown starts. You usually have a short window to either leave the UK or switch to another visa category. Miss that window, even by misunderstanding dates or waiting on paperwork, and the system can mark you as non-compliant. Job offers that arrive late, employers unfamiliar with sponsorship rules, or delays in issuing certificates can all work against you. And when the record updates, it's handled by the UK Home Office, not by your university. What shocks many graduates is that good faith doesn't matter. You can be actively job hunting, fully qualified, and in demand, and still lose your status because the rules focus on deadlines, not effort. Even the graduate route, which many see as a safety net, has its own limits. It doesn't guarantee settlement, doesn't pause the clock forever, and doesn't protect you from future refusals if earlier conditions were breached. The safest approach is planning early and acting early. Confirm your course end date, visa expiry, and next steps months in advance. Don't rely solely on verbal advice from employers or friends. Get written confirmation, keep copies of all documents, and seek professional guidance before the clock starts ticking. In the UK system, education does not equal protection. Only compliance does. So ask yourself this. If your student status ended tomorrow, do you already have a lawful path forward, or are you assuming there will be time later? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 7. Data sharing that exposes you without warning. Most people assume their immigration status is checked only when they apply for a visa. But in today's UK system, checks happen constantly, silently, and across multiple departments. Information about your work, healthcare, taxes, and even driving records can be shared behind the scenes. You won't be notified. You won't be asked to explain. The system simply compares data and flags anything that doesn't match. Here's why this is so dangerous. Government departments don't operate in isolation anymore. Records from HMRC, the NHS, employers, and licensing authorities can be cross-referenced with immigration databases managed by the UK Home Office. If your income doesn't align with what your visa allows, if your address history looks inconsistent, or if your work hours exceed permitted limits, the system can treat that as non-compliance, even if it was an honest mistake or temporary situation. What makes this terrifying is automation. Many of these checks are handled by algorithms, not people. There's no context. No explanation. A mismatch becomes a mark on your record. Over time, those marks can lead to refused renewals, sudden visa cancellations, or intense scrutiny during future applications. Many people only discover the problem when they're already facing a refusal or asked to leave. So, how do you protect yourself? Make sure every official record tells the same story. Your address, job details, tax filings, and visa conditions must align perfectly. If something changes, job role, hours, income, or residence, update it everywhere, not just in one place. Keep proof of communications and corrections. In this system, inconsistency looks like dishonesty, even when it isn't. Ask yourself this carefully. If all your government records were compared today, would they match, or would something quietly raise a red flag? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 8. Voluntary departure that leads to permanent bans. Many people believe that leaving the UK voluntarily is the safest option when a visa problem arises, but this assumption has ended countless stays forever. The word voluntary sounds harmless, even responsible. In reality, it can carry hidden penalties that follow you for years, sometimes for life. People leave thinking they can fix things later, only to discover the door is permanently locked. Here's what's rarely explained. When you depart the UK after overstaying, refusal, or enforcement contact, your exit is still recorded and assessed by the UK Home Office. Depending on your situation, that departure can trigger re-entry bans lasting 5 or even 10 years. These bans are not always clearly stated at the time you leave. There's no bold warning. You find out only when you try to return, and your application is refused. What makes this especially cruel is how common it is. People follow advice to leave and apply again properly. Students, workers, and families assume honesty will be rewarded. But the system doesn't see it that way. It looks at how long you were out of status, why you left, and whether enforcement action had already begun. Once those conditions are met, the ban applies automatically. Intentions don't matter. Cooperation doesn't erase the record. The only real defense is never assuming departure is risk-free. Before leaving the UK under any pressure, formal or informal, get professional advice. Understand exactly what category your departure falls under and what future consequences it carries. Because once you leave, you lose leverage, and appeals from abroad are extremely difficult. So pause and ask yourself, if you were told to leave tomorrow, would you know whether voluntary actually means never return? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 9. Rule changes that punish you for the past. One of the most unsettling realities of the UK immigration system is that following the rules in the past does not always protect you in the future. Policies evolve, interpretations shift, and enforcement standards tighten. What was once acceptable can later be viewed as a problem, without you ever doing anything new or wrong. Here's how this quietly unfolds. Immigration officers don't only assess your current application, they review your entire history under today's standards. A gap that was previously overlooked, a job role that once qualified, or a financial arrangement that was acceptable years ago can suddenly be questioned. These reassessments are carried out by the UK Home Office, often without public attention. There's no announcement saying, this rule now applies differently. The change appears only when applications start getting refused. What makes this so damaging is the sense of false security it creates. People assume that because their visa was approved before, future approvals are likely. But in reality, each application is treated as a fresh judgment using the most current guidance. Past approvals do not set precedent. In some cases, earlier compliance is reinterpreted as a technical breach under new guidance, damaging credibility and trust in future reviews. The best way to protect yourself is never relying on past success. Review your immigration history regularly. Stay informed about policy updates, not just headline changes, but subtle guidance shifts. If your situation includes anything that could be reinterpreted, employment structure, income patterns, or past gaps, seek advice before reapplying. Prevention here means preparation. Ask yourself this carefully. If your entire history were judged by today's rules, would everything still hold up, or are you depending on old approvals to protect you? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. Number 10. A single refusal that ends your UK future. Most people think one visa refusal is just a setback, but in the UK system, a single refusal can permanently change how every future application is judged. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't reset. It becomes part of a digital history that follows you across borders, categories, and even countries. For many, this is the moment their long-term plans quietly collapse. Here's why this is so serious. A refusal isn't just a no to one application. It creates a credibility problem. Immigration officers assess future applications through the lens of trust. Once refused, every new submission is examined more aggressively. Even small inconsistencies are treated as signs of risk. This process is controlled by the UK Home Office, and the refusal reason, whether technical or minor, can echo for years. What's worse is that many refusals are avoidable. People apply without understanding updated rules, rely on incorrect advice, or rush submissions close to deadlines. A missing document, a misunderstood condition, a poorly explained gap. These mistakes can lead to refusals that trigger re-entry bans, limit switching options, or destroy eligibility for settlement. Some categories offer no right of appeal at all, meaning the refusal becomes final the moment it's issued. The smartest move is avoiding refusals at all costs. If there's uncertainty, delay, and prepare rather than gamble. Get applications reviewed professionally. Address weaknesses openly instead of hoping they go unnoticed. In the UK system, silence is often treated as deception. One clean, well-prepared application is worth more than multiple rushed attempts. So ask yourself this honestly. If your next application were refused, would it just delay your plans, or would it end your future in Britain completely? If you don't want a silent law to destroy your future in Britain, hit subscribe now, because the right information today could save your stay tomorrow. As we reach the end of this video, one truth should be painfully clear. In today's UK immigration system, silence is not safety. Laws don't always arrive with headlines or public debate. Many of the most powerful changes happen quietly, inside policy updates, guidance notes, and internal enforcement rules. And by the time most people feel the impact, their options are already gone. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. Because the people most affected are often those who believe they were doing everything right. What makes this system so unforgiving is that it doesn't rely on dramatic moments. It works through small details, missed dates, data mismatches, and assumptions. A late renewal, a job change, a financial dip, a relationship issue. Each one may seem manageable on its own, but together they can build a record that quietly pushes someone out. Years of study, work, and contribution can be outweighed by a single unchecked rule. That's the reality many only discover when it's too late. But knowledge changes the outcome. Preparation is protection. Checking your status regularly, understanding your conditions, keeping records aligned, and seeking advice early can mean the difference between stability and sudden loss. The UK system rewards precision, not intentions. Those who survive it long-term are not the luckiest, they are the most informed. If this video made you pause, that's a good thing. Talk about it. Share it. Question your assumptions. And if you found value here, support the work by subscribing, because every video like this helps someone avoid a mistake that could end everything. Stay alert, stay informed, and never assume that quiet means safe.